Welcome back, Cozy Travelers. If you're new to my channel, I want to thank you for clicking on this video. And if you're coming back, I want to welcome you back. I hope everybody has had a really good past couple of weeks. As I'm filming this, I literally can't believe we're already going to be in the middle of July. Like, it's coming way too fast because I feel like I just filmed my summer lineup. And I was like, oh, since I'm not doing like monthly inks of my pens, like it's not gonna feel like I'm doing them so frequently, but yeah, even then, like I feel like I am. But yeah, so I wanted to come back and do basically episode 2 of my swatching my inks. If you haven't watched the first episode or the first video, it's linked up in the corner here. But in that, basically what I was doing, I'll flip back here, is I'm going through my brands of inks and swatching each one. And this is strictly only for bottles because if I was going to do including samples, I would be here forever. So right now I'm just tackling the bottles. I started off, before I even started these videos, is Dominant Industry, which I did Seaweed, La Falaise de Tratat, Earl Grey Tea, and that was that brand. And then I only had one of Band, so I did the Cornaline d'Egypte. From there, I did the 2 Monteverdes, and these were the first ones that I put in that video. And then the other 2 I did was the Graf and Faber-Castell and Cognac Brown, and the Yoseca Ceramics Tongnisei Blue. So yeah, that's all in my first video, so if you haven't watched it, take a peek at that. But today I'm gonna be doing the next brand, which is gonna be Teranishi Guitar. This is a brand that I saw a few people especially talk about, the Opera Rose, and I got them on Amazon for a pretty good price. And I was just gonna get the Upper Rose, but then I saw the Emotional Olive, and I was like, okay, I just can't get one, so I'm gonna get both of them. So these are currently right now the only 2 I have of Teranishi. I don't know if I'm gonna get more. I have gone through a decent amount of Opera Rose. At least, like, it's hard to see because of the camera, but when I hold the bottle, it's about here, and Emotional Olive is about here. So yeah, let me put this back aside and we'll do Opera Rose first. So right before I start this, I'm just going to quickly go over the materials I'm using again. I'm using my little glass stirrer here. Great for doing big blobs of swatches. For writing and doing some of my drawing, I'm going to be doing the Kakamori dip nib. And then I also have the Kakamori brass nib, the bullet-shaped one. And then lastly, some brushes. And of course, off screen, I have some water and some paper towel. So again, first up one up here we have is Opera Rose by Teranishi. And technically, I didn't write the full name of it. The full name is Teranishi Guitar Taisho Roman Haikara. That was a lot to write, so if you are interested in any of these colors, if you just look up Teranishi Guitar, it should definitely come up. And here I'm just doing some quick line work. I did do it not in the same order I originally did it, so who knows if it'll be the same every time I do it. You'll see here I'm doing my quick time test, one at 5, one at 10, and then the last one at 20. And I think going forward, I'm probably gonna write what these are, because I don't know if I'm always going to do the voiceover saying like what these times are. So I think I'm definitely gonna in the future at least write on top of them how long the wait is for each one. Here I'm just using the glass dip pen, stirrer, sorry, to do a big swatch on the side, and then I'm gonna do a line. What's nice is that usually like you get a nice gradient because it's pooled at the beginning and then it lessens as you get to the end. And then I like to do this like really kind of very gestural swatch section, which then I'll go in with a fine nib and just kind of add a little extra dimension to it. So I had a little trouble kind of figuring out what to do with this one. I am glad that I eventually ended up landing on what I did. And basically what happened was, so when I googled opera rose, it just showed up that it's a color. And funny enough, it's definitely not a color that's reminiscent of what the swatch is. But I was like, okay, so what do I do? I could do a rose because it's opera rose. And I was leaning heavily that way. And then I was like, what if I do rosé? I think that's kind of fun. So I kind of interpret the opera rose as an opera rosé. And so I drew the cup here and then started kind of getting in the idea of where like that glass meets the edge. I then got to draw this little strawberry here, which in hindsight doesn't really look like a strawberry, but that was the idea I was going for, is a little strawberry floating in it. Then I marked out where I wanted the bubbles to look like where they were meeting the drink itself. This part was fun, kind of doing that gradient look going down. In that darker area, I was trying to make it look transparent so you could see through the glass. So kind of showing some of the darker points on the other side of the glass. That's why, otherwise it would just be like a flat color and then maybe a couple of spots of white to show like bubbles. So that's kind of how that came out. But overall, though the strawberry is probably my least favorite part, I think I've really enjoyed how this came out overall. Okay, awesome. So the next up here we have Emotional Olive. You can see right around here that I've noticed that I did the same patchwork on the top and was like, oops. So then I did the squiggle underneath. And yeah, so Emotional Olive is a really gorgeous, like berry, like brownish green, almost like neon green. And I really love this color. When writing with it, I feel like it does lean a little bit more brown. But overall, it's a really unique color. I really enjoy writing with it. I do have my, what I call pickle pen, that I think that this would actually really look good in as well, because it's like very briny. So I think that's like an idea in the back of my head that I definitely want to try to match these up at some point. And then here we have, again, that big gestural swatch area. And you could see in those light points where the ink is not as heavy, that it does do that really light green. And then in those really like darker areas, you get like that brown type of green. With a name like Emotional Olive, I think the concept and kind of inspiration for this was pretty much in the name. And I know that a lot of them are probably going to be like that, where if it's, the name is pretty straightforward, I'm probably going to use that. In the case of the Opera Rose, that one was a little harder because it was just a color. So I was kind of thinking of stuff that reminded me of that color. So for this one, I did an olive, kind of like olive branch. And this one was a little hard because in the reference picture, there's a lot of like really dark areas. So I was worried because this is a lighter color that I wouldn't be able to kind of convey those areas where it was really dark and you kind of got more shadow. But I think overall it worked pretty well. I think what really helped here was using the technique of either using the dip nib or the kakamori when it's really saturated with ink to go in and really pull out like as dark as you could get the ink, because obviously the more it is where it's concentrated, it's going to look darker. So a mix of using that and then really putting a lot of water into this palette I had on the side with honestly like the smallest amount of the actual ink helped me get washes that would be able to give me a range that would make it feel like, even though again this is only one color, I'm not adding any white, I'm not adding black, so I need to really be able to get my variations in shade to get highs and lows in the drawing itself. finishing up here, I'm just going back in with the dip nib and marking a little kind of like patchwork, and then just defining a little bit more like the leaf lines so that it's not too soft. Alrighty, I flipped the page, put a little blotter sheet there just because the Emotional Olive is pretty wet, especially seeing the 3 timed swatches. So I put a little blotter sheet there just in case so it doesn't spread onto the other page. But next up, I'm going to do one of the only bottles of Troublemaker that I have. The brand, I really like them, but I will say having 60 ml of color is a lot. So I think the commitment of it is probably the only reason I don't get a lot of bottles and just gear myself more towards the samples, like getting the little like 5 milliliter ones. But this color was really cool. This one really piqued my interest because I really like greens. But I did also make a custom version of it with some of the Heart WEARINGEUL glitter potion. I absolutely love that color. I'm probably going to be showing it in my next video for my mid-season check-in, because I have that inked up currently in my my Kaweco. So stay tuned for that color because it's honestly like one of my favorite mixes that I've made. But yeah, this is the only one I have. Again, this is Troublemaker Kelp. Colors on there. I wouldn't say it's actually like super red, but actually no, in some of the areas where it's super pooled, it does look like that. So honestly, we'll probably see more of that in this swatch here. So looking at the bottle again, I realized that the name for this ink is technically Kelp Tea. So here's the adjustment for that. But yeah, this is a really fun color. Like I mentioned right before this, I started doing the swatching, that this is technically my first bottle of Troublemaker. I've been getting a decent amount of samples from meetups and stuff. So currently I have Foxglove, Abalone. There's like a turquoise one. I forgot the name offhand. But the Kelp Tea one really spoke to me because I really love greens and I love when there's like really fun shading properties to them. And the swatching on this, I haven't really tried on any other paper yet. So this is just regular Tell My River paper. And I really enjoy how it looks on here. Like, you're going to see more of it and I'm going to mention it multiple times, that the shift it does into this like almost like orangey red tone is really fun. And the brand itself makes really fun inks. I feel like they have it pretty down for a lot of shading, and I feel like I'm definitely going to try to get like maybe another bottle or so, maybe split it with someone. But yeah, it was really surprising how dry it is. I didn't really expect that. Right now I have it in my Kaweco and that's a pretty dry writer, albeit it is a broad nib, so maybe that's why I'm not having as many issues in there. So onto the drawing. Funny enough, I did not know until I started looking up references for kelp that kelp is a type of seaweed, and seaweed is just the overall name for I guess these type of plants in the ocean. So when I was drawing it, I was like, well, I know this is going to look pretty close to seaweed, which is the dominant industry color I had as one of the first that I did like my drawing and swatching type of spread. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to try to make it look a little different. And looking kelp, like it did have, like the shape of it looked a little different, and the colors obviously a little bit more kind of like reddish yellow green. So I was like, instead of doing it straight up like I did for seaweed, I'm gonna do it kind of swaying in the water. So a lot of it is tilting more towards one side. And for this one, I think the struggle I had was trying to get that dimension of like there being more in the background, and really conveying that there was like some in the front, some in the foreground, some in the midground, some in the background. And what's nice about this color, because it has a lot of shading, you can get a lot of variety in it, especially once you start adding water to it. And yeah, I think it it's definitely not one of my favorite ones in the grouping here. I think that one's still gonna go to the olive, but I really liked how soft the kelp in the background looks. Awesome, so that's sea kelp. Again, pretty dry ink, but it's, and I did put a lot of ink there, so that was a little bit, that was a little bit my fault here. But yeah, this is such a cool, like, actually going back to the sticker, that sticker is pretty accurate. Like, you definitely get the green, you get into that reddish and like really pulled areas with that shading. So like, yeah, this is such a unique color that I don't have anything really else like this in my collection, both sample and bottle. Alrighty, so coming up on the last one, which is WEARINGEUL Purgatorio. Again, surprised that this is the only WEARINGEUL ink I have, because I do have like 5 of the shimmers in like my collection, and I know I have a bunch of samples, but yeah, this is the first full bottle I got, and it's such a pretty color. Currently I have this in my Sailor Pro Gear Kisan, and yeah, it's, WEARINGEULs are pretty wet for me, but I think that pen just needs to be tuned a little bit wetter. But otherwise, like, yeah, this is such a really gorgeous color. So yeah, let's just get into it. So I remember when I was getting up to this last color that honestly, I had probably been filming for like an hour or two at this point, and it didn't honestly feel like it at all. I don't know if it's the same for you guys, but like I could really get lost into just swatching colors, and it's sometimes a bad thing because I will be like, okay, I have to do this at this time, and then I'll start swatching inks and then like look at the time and be like, oh, have to either rush to get ready to do this thing I was gonna do, or I'm running late. So sometimes I have to plan around doing swatching that I have nothing to do after, because then forget it. Like I'll definitely like just be engrossed and just keep going. But yeah, I find something about it really like therapeutic, just kind of like making the swirls and looking at the colors. Like some people say like watching paint dry is really boring, but watching ink dry is pretty entertaining. I don't know what, you know, it's definitely like seeing those like properties appear. That's like really fun to me. But yeah, this last one, Purgatorio, is such a gorgeous dusty pink, and it's one of my more recent purchased inks. Really loved it. Immediately inked it up because I was like, I absolutely want this in something. And the only other pinkish tone I had at the time was my Robert Oster Dusty Pink, and so this was like a really fun pairing for it. So here I start doing the drawing. So if you didn't know, the name of this color is based off of Dante's Divine Comedy, specifically the second book. So it's basically Dante's telling of a story of himself going through the circles of hell and stuff. So I think this one, and then it's Paradiso after. And I had no idea what I was going to do for it. I was like dreading getting to this color. As much as I love the actual color, I was like, what the heck am I going to draw for this? So I was looking, and there's a lot of illustrations of like these different levels. And I was like, okay, there's some really cool like hatchwork ones. So I think I'm going to do that. And I immediately, when I was doing it, I was like, this just looks like a layered cake. So I was kind of like bummed about that. And I also made it way too wide. Like it's more narrow when you look up images of like this drawing, and I was like, I can't fix that because I already drew the lines too wide. So I just kept going and adding the hatchwork. Like I said, it's probably my least favorite of the 4 in this video, but it was interesting to find something that wasn't something that I could just draw straightforward. Because I was like, maybe I could draw Dante himself or something else that's in the book, like other drawings that were referenced. But it, like, that's the journey with this like series that I'm doing. Like, I'm not going to be like super happy with every single drawing, and that, you know, I'm okay with that, because that just shows that, you know, you're gonna love some of your drawings and you're gonna hate some of them. And in this case, it wasn't one of my favorites, and I was like, hey, like, the fact that I even drew it is pretty cool to me. Like, I did do some fun stuff with this. Like, it was hatch work. I hadn't done really hatching any of the drawings in this series so far, so I was like, you gotta have to sometimes look at like the bright side of it to be like, okay, what about this can I learn from? What about this, you know, what technique did I use here that maybe I'll want to use in a future one? So that's the way I thought of it. And thankfully the color is also really pretty, so it kind of made it all worth it in the end. But yeah, it's a really gorgeous, like, dusty pink, kind of what I thought Opera Rose would be more like. And it has really fun, like, in like a yellow undertone and some darker like purples. So really gorgeous color, love that one. Kelp is still drying here, but you could kind of really get the vibe of it. It has like some reddish undertones with the green, which is gorgeous. And then, oh yeah, like that emotional olive is absolutely gorgeous. And then Opera Rose, which is definitely like a really dark, like reddish brown. I do know on different papers it probably would look a little bit more pinkish and other color, like other tones, but I really like this color. I think it's really fun. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. I really enjoy doing these videos, so I'm excited to do more because I do have a decent amount of bottles and I want to get through them in swatching like this, because I think it's a really fun way to show different properties and kind of just get me drawing again. So I hope you stuck around to the end. I hope you like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know which one of these colors was your favorite. I think mine was probably Purgatorio, but Emotional Olive is very close, and also Kelp. So honestly, I'm very bad at picking colors, and obviously I bought bottles of these for a reason. So you let me know which one's your favorite color, and I will see you guys in a couple weeks to talk about my mid-season check-in with my pens. Alrighty, thank you so much. See you then. Bye.